Yeah, it's recording. Okay. So, Crystal, you're into R&B, and I want to ask, like, how has R? Actually, no. First, can you introduce like who you are, like what songs and like what like is like just who you are basically, like your introduction as an artist?
Totally. Sure. So I'm Krystal. I'm a singer-songwriter, pop R&B artist. Um, I've been doing this really my whole life, but I started pursuing it professionally the last few years, especially during the pandemic. That's when all of a sudden I had time. Weird. And uh, and yeah, so I've been also producing my own stuff. So the songs that you heard, especially oh no, actually both the songs you had, I'm Done With You and Used, those are produced
Mhm.
also by me. So and now I'm currently working on more music and hopefully we'll release an EP later this year. So fingers crossed. So yeah, and I'm studying. I've been studying since I moved to LA. I was doing classes at the Songwriting School of Los Angeles just to kind of like get on my craft again. And yeah, that's it.
Nice. So, like, how has R&B made an impact on your like on the current state of the world? Like, how do you believe it made an impact on the current state of the world?
Oh my gosh. Totally. So, like, how much time you got now? Basically, it's I feel like especially in the last decade or so, hip hop and R&B are essentially pop
Mhm.
because of how I don't it partly mainstream but partly just the culture shift like
Mhm.
in in the world, now minorities are becoming the majority.
Yeah.
uh Racism still exists, but racism has lessened and therefore music is becoming more and more and more accessible.
Yeah.
So I think with these genres, it's less about like where they came from, but where it's going, and it just keeps getting further and further, further because of how globalized we're becoming. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah.
Nice. I like that outlook on life. So I also see that it's like also like I just feel like everyone needs a little bit of like hip hop and R&B. Like I just feel like I need like that's a way for me to pump up my day. Also the R&B, like I also express like my feelings that way. Like I feel
Hmm.
like it connects to home because like I grew up listening to it.
Hmm.
So I think like it affects everyone and it also like changes like our world's perspective. That's why I see it as.
Yeah. It's, to me, music is a language, and
Mhm.
it's how are you going to use your words and your language to express yourself. And when it's just a matter of how they just speak to you that it can strike. So yeah, I love it. So
Nice. Second question, let's see. Do you think R&B should be inclusive or exclusive genres?
um like both R&B and hip hop being exclusive of each other, or just like in general?
Just like mm, just like R&B wise, like how like could that be inclusive? So
I
like
think, yeah, I think in general,
mhm,
I think it should be inclusive, um because I understand where that's going to. um I I believe a lot of other cultures like look up to like American culture, like especially like American pop culture in
yeah.
general. So and they end up imitating. So like this happens a lot. And I think it's beautiful to be inclusive because you're inviting people to the conversation and you're inviting people into your world, and it's it comes from when that music was not inclusive.
Mhm.
So like R&B and hip hop, they come from African American culture. It's them like what from the blues, then like, doo-wop and this and that, and it came from because
Yeah.
they needed an outlet of and they were excluded. So I think it should be inclusive because of it's just inviting people in one's world and expanding it.
Mhm.
So hopefully that
Yeah.
makes
Yeah. So like kind of like evolutionally wise, like it just keeps growing. I also feel like too, like I just feel like it should be inclusive because I feel like everybody can have a chance to put like a little twist onto it, you know? Because like I feel like if it was exclusive, I don't feel like we would have like like we would have like extended so many like cultures of like music, like culture, like musically, like culturally aspect goes through, but then also like you get the mixtures of like having different artists be able to come on different albums. So like I know I've been listening to a lot of like Tyler the Creator, and then like that's hip hop, but I also know like he goes to like Rex Orange County, which is more like soft tempo, kind of like
sense.
R&B sometimes. If I'm getting that correctly, I need to double check. But yeah, I just like how like a lot of different artists can like switch up from hip hop to R&B and then sometimes like R&B to pop. So I feel like I think that's what has like grown like music like overly,
Yeah,
like made it evolve, kind of like a Pokemon. Yeah.
I love Pokemon.
Um,
Um, but it yeah, and to further enunciate on that point, in it's a cross pollination of sounds, and
mhm,
that's how people work. Like it just keeps expand. That's what it is. Like it's just taking elements and then infusing it to make something new, and then something new, and then something new.
mhm,
So, um, that's how we work as people. Like we're just constantly like it's not repurposing, but just like seeing how can we make it go further, like on what's going on nowadays, and taking, oh well, maybe I can infuse, like now with reggaeton for example, like infuse that in my R&B track, or like
yeah.
do this
Or
kind of,
sampling. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah, I
mhm,
think sampling is a really big one. So I
mhm,
hear a lot of my like my newer songs like go back to sampling like older ones that I grew up with. So like it kind of like a bittersweet moment where that old song I loved and forgot about is turned to something new. So I'm just
yeah.
like I love the fact that it just all builds on top of each other.
And where does that come from? That comes from hip hop. So because
Yeah.
hip hop, they were the first people to sample, you know, they just kind of repurpose. So yeah, I love
Yeah.
it. So
Nice. So third question, what is R&B to you? Like what are the core elements of like the core elements you believe like R&B should like have like to you?
I I believe, and from the impressions I get, I always feel like there is a rawness to it. There's a
Mhm,
lot of like raw, like raw points or poignant kind of points. There is not always, but a lot of times a melancholy to it, you know,
mhm,
like just on the strict side of musically speaking, R&B loves to use seven chords, nine chords. Like they like to be playful in the sound. So that's the other thing is like
mhm,
kind of pushing the box of like the sounds like that they use. Like it's not your typical like your pop like boop 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 like that
mhm.
like, or like it's always being colorful in the sounds.
Yeah.
So I would say it's a little raw. There's some poignancy with the lyrics. There is you know, a very specific sound like with the 7/9 chords, the color in that, which
Mhm,
it really comes from jazz if you like go back further. Um and there's actually also like a gospel element, and that again has to
mhm,
go to the roots. So kind of, this um this I want to say almost love to it. Even again, the R&B songs can get very sad, but I think because it has those gospel elements, maybe that richness in voice. So I
mhm.
would say also the the voice in it, because it's being sung versus like hip hop, it's like more rapped.
Yeah.
Um and what else? I I think that's and I want to say more emotional. I know that's kind of generic, but it really is. I
Mhm,
mean, compared to your typical pop song or maybe even like other genre comparing to other genres. Like I mean, because they're you like it R&B is very vocally focused, so it's really emotional and feeling
mhm,
versus and a little bit of groove, but not as heavy in groove.
mhm.
So that could be argued, but I want to say those are more or less the elements. Did you get them? I know that was
Yeah.
kind of mixed.
No, no, yeah, I got them.
Okay.
Having some background of like how like R&B has started and like how it correlates with like hip hop as well. Like I think you hit like the solid points that it comes from jazz and also like it does come from gospel, and I always forget it comes from gospel. I think that's where like a lot of people forget, because that's where like I feel like your voice becomes so strong with emotion that sometimes like it over like, because R&B, I feel like R&B is known for like being like like a very emotional like genre, but it comes because everyone forgets about it, comes from gospel. So that's what I see it as. I always just assume that's like, oh, R&B is just for emotion, but like as I like grew up listening more, it's just like it has so much more elements to just, there's so many like elements. I like, I need to figure them out. But I think you hit a lot of them, and like you also like exposed me to like more as well.
Oh, cool.
Nice. Let's see. What do you believe that makes like a good, like a great like R&B record?
What makes a great R&B record?
Like it
Um,
could come from like the song track list, or how like it's like ordered, or like even like a cover, like when like you're like, let's say if you go like in the record store, like what makes you like want to get like an R&B like album? Like what do you believe makes an R&B album or record?
yeah. This might uh this really applies to all genres.
Mhm.
But it has to be memorable. It has to like the it has to be memorable, whether that be in like the cover
Mhm.
art or the titles or the song subject. Um, I mean, I can't help but think like Bruno Mars.
Yeah.
Because even though he's very much like he's retro like right now, and
Mhm.
he's, he goes back, he definitely listens to like Motown, like probably like nobody, yeah, nobody
Yeah.
else in the business. But he infused a lot of R&B as well, and it's very specific, it's universal, it's memorable, um, and it's I would also say it's not R&B has the beauty of minimalism. It doesn't need to be production heavy. Like you could
Yeah.
I mean, if you think of like Her or Summer Walker's Jenna Aiko, which I lowered the door, they only use like a couple of instruments.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it does what makes it great is the song matter, if the the minimalism of production or just the right amount of production, um and just making something like something that's going to stick with me.
Yeah.
Like that's what makes like me go back to records all the time. Like right now, I'm again, this is not genre really the same genre, but like I grew up also with Shakira, and I'm
Mhm.
listening to like her Laundry Service album on repeat, which I grew up with. Same with like I listen to a lot of Aaliyah,
Mhm.
that's an R&B artist, and I'm going back, and it's just like this some of it's these memorable licks and like
Yeah.
sounds. So I would say that.
Nice. So last question. Do you think R&B will still be around for like the next 10 years? Why or why not?
Absolutely. Because music is meant to, as long as people are around, it'll be around.
Yeah.
Until like the planet explodes. Um, because going back to like the subject of like languages,
Mhm.
like R&B is a language like there is Spanish and there's French and this and that, and they're all
Mhm.
like they all originate from Latin. These all originated from what, blues, soul, like
Yeah,
etc. So like the language is going to still exist. It's just going to evolve with the people.
yeah,
So just, so I think it's absolutely going to exist. It's just going the production and the subject matters will evolve too.
mhm.
So because like, now we have people producing out of their bedroom and literally there's a genre called bedroom producers. I was like, okay. So it's it's because it's more accessible, more people can do it.
Yeah,
Um, so I think of course it'll be around. It's just going to just alter and change
yeah.
and have influences here and there, and that's it.
Nice. All right. Thank you for your time. I can't wait for more music from you. Yeah, and thank you for interviewing.
Oh my gosh, no, you're welcome.
All right.